morning and good afternoon and good evening, everyone. It's LD4 Rene Liaw here. Again, live from Toronto. It's gonna change my background here. There we go. Hope everyone's having a great time today. Had a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And of course, it's Sunday here. Beautiful Sunday, happy Sunday. Want to wish all of you, of course, an amazing Sunday as well, too. And if you haven't yet already, please take a moment to just give some thanks for having a beautiful morning, of course, or afternoon or evening, wherever you are, of course, in the world. And as always, I want to say good morning to all the people. Wow, the calls are already getting pretty filled here. Good morning, Tony. Hello, Mona. Hello, Ishak. Hello, Amrajit. Wow, from Singapore, of course, at 10 p.m. Thank you for being on the call as well, too. And of course, not too late still to, it's gonna wait a few more minutes here for a few other people to log on to the call as well too. And absolutely, absolutely amazing time, of course, here in Opulence Global. And more importantly, I get a chance to finally share perhaps today some of the sort of behind the scenes stuff of what kind of happens, in my business at least, and sort of my journey to how I got to where I am here today. It's been such an amazing, amazing journey. And before we get started, I guess I'll just cover just some quick reminders as we wait a few more minutes to get started. I think we'll start around 10:05, just let a few people, of course, hop onto the call. But really, what's, I guess, the most important thing here for sure is we have our huge, huge event coming up on September the 15th and the 16th. And that, of course, is going to be our incredible Freedom Conference. And I do hope that all of you have already purchased your tickets. I know that I want to actually congratulate Itzhak for attending a conference coming all the way, of course, from Israel. And so I know that just yesterday he had secured his, sorry, from Belgium. My apologies, Itzhak from Belgium. Yes. And he had secured his tickets, of course, his flights, his hotels. And so very, very excited, of course, for Itzhak to come down to Toronto for that and just get one of those events where you can really learn so much at that event. It really can just change your life forever. And it's one of the things where I guess you'll hear about later on today is if you really want to get a chance to make some serious income, these events are just absolutely pivotal for that to happen. All I can say is that every top leader I know in this industry who is earning a 5-figure monthly income, a 6-figure yearly income, or even a 6-figure monthly income or more, do you think they ever miss any of the conferences in the company? And for sure, the answer is going to be 100%. There's no way that they will ever miss a conference, right? And so this conference, of course, we're very, very lucky. We do have our founder and CEO, the gentleman who actually started the Forensic Networker, who invented the Forensic Networker, who is the Forensic Networker, and taught me the exact system to follow to achieving a 5-figure monthly income that many people since then to this day have followed it and also reached a 5-figure monthly income. And that's what's going to be taught, of course, at the seminar on the Friday. Then, of course, on Saturday, we have an amazing release. I can't even share with you what that is yet. It's going to be a surprise, but make sure you do get yourself to that event. You don't want to miss what's happening, of course, on the actual Sunday as well, too. And beyond that, we're also going to have a chance to hear from very, very amazing rising leaders. So one of the biggest things that we're going to be doing going forward is to really, now that, of course, COVID's over, and in the meantime, is really allowing you all to see the stars and the faces of our amazing leadership, the ones who are, moving and shaking. And you get a chance to hear on what they do on a day in, day out basis to, of course, to blow up and expand their business. And so don't miss that event. Of course, on the Sunday, we do have a team outing going to one of the seven wonders of the world, and that, of course, is going to be our forensic networker. So I'm still into the training. That's going to be Niagara Falls. I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing with you, right? The seventh wonder of the world. Yes, it should be the forensic networker, but no, it's going to be actually the Niagara Falls tour, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And imagine yourself on a bus, a party bus. Let me correct that. With every bus can hold about 50 people. So you're going to be on a bus with 49 incredible people who are going to be there, and you get a chance just to take your mindset to a whole new level. So definitely, definitely, yes, do not miss our Freedom Conference. Hello, Yulia. Welcome to the call. Hello, everyone. Hello, Charlene. Hello, Raymond. Yeah. Oh, wow. Good evening from the Philippines. Wonderful, wonderful. And so, yeah, I was just sharing with everyone this morning about some of the importance of course, the events coming up, which is the biggest event of the year for the remainder of this year. There's one more event. There's one huge event that's this year, and that is going to be, of course, the Freedom Conference. So do not miss that. It's one of those kind of events where if you have partners in your team, it's a worthwhile investment to invest into your partners to get them to the conference, because really what they're going to walk away with, the kind of business they're going to bring for you as well too, it's going to be very, 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 very powerful. And in most cases, what you invest into having your partners be there, it's going to pay you back tenfold, tenfold plus, right? So, but of course, once again, I guess dive right in and get started with, of course, the our leadership cocktail. And yeah, today's, I mean, please get your cocktail, get your coffee, get your tea. I know probably Amarjeet, I know, get your beers and wines ready. It's just really going to be a fun conversation tonight. And just kind of really not really talking much about particularly about the actual business. It's definitely just more about my own sort of personal triumphs, if you want to call it that. A lot of the hurdles and jumping through fire circles that I had to go through, and a lot of the things I had to deal with. So, so I'm going to dive right into this. And of course, if at any point in time you have any kind of question whatsoever, please don't be shy. Please do it and ask away your questions, because we're here to help you as best we can. And so, one of the things about myself is just a quick history. So I was born in Toronto. My mom was from Cambodia. My dad was from Malaysia, and but their parents were from China. So it's kept moving around, and so they came to Toronto for of course opportunity, right? One thing I always talk about in my trainings is when you're feeling like in trust with someone, you want to ask them, whereabouts are you from? And most people aren't even from where you're at, and that's because that gives you a hint that they're moving around, or their parents moved around because they're looking for better opportunity. And we have an amazing opportunity here, right, with Opulence Global. And so, yeah, I basically they came to Toronto, and unfortunately, they didn't even speak English back then. So the only job they could find was just washing dishes, right? They didn't have to serve anybody. And so they washed dishes while they were working throughout university. And of course, eventually they graduated. One of my dad's friends had asked my dad to help his other friend move, and that's how my mom and dad connected. And so, I guess they hit it off. They got naughty, if you want to call it that. And of course, I was born. So I have an older sister, Monica, and you'll hear probably a bit more about her later on, because she's actually the one who invited me to go and look at well, it's now called Opulence Global, but it was formerly called Global Wealth Trade, GWT days. And so, really quickly about my background, I would say that definitely not a wealthy family. We basically grew up living pretty tight. Every meal we tried to eat at home. My parents were really great. Actually, the grocery store across the street, we'd walk to it. And back then, a lot of the butchers didn't want the bones or like ribs, or they didn't want like in Chinese, we have to buy these pork bones, right? The pork bone soups. And the chefs didn't want them. And so my parents would actually go there and get bags and bags of free pork bone and make soup. Of course, they caught on and they start charging for it. But my parents just tried to save money every which way possible. We hardly ever really ate out. I think that the biggest restaurant we ate out back then was it's called Swiss Chalet, and I think I like Swiss Chalet today only because it has such a huge, fond memory in my mind about eating out with the family and just being out together, and away from the hustle and bustle. And yeah, so Swiss Chalet again. But if you ever come to Canada, don't feel like you should try Swiss Chalet. There's probably a million better restaurants out there. It's just something that's in the back of my memory now, right? And it's just like a regular chicken and rice. It's not like a steak restaurant. It's just like chicken. So, but yeah, so just we lived pretty tight. We didn't shop much. I didn't have fancy clothes. I actually never owned a single brand name clothes in my life until I got passed into way past university when I actually graduated. So most of the time, my parents were just buying clothes that they could find, and we just kind of got by. So yeah, I just kind of grew up living that way, saving every dollar. So the challenge though with me, I think, in terms of this business was that my mindset was built upon the way that I was raised. And that's the same for all of us, right? Where when we're growing up, the blueprint of our mindset is our surroundings, right? It's our surroundings, you know, and that becomes a challenge because, and that's when I realized sometimes that saying about the wealthy get wealthier or the rich get richer is because I think a big part of that of why the rich get richer is because they have the right environment. So if you're being brought up in a wealthy family that does business, and they're well spoken and they have great mindset, you probably will inherit some of that as your blueprint. It's not guaranteed, but you have a higher odds. And so, at least for me, with my two boys nowadays, I really try to make sure that I instill the right mindset for them in every which way. So, anyways, eventually I got into university. Oh, by the way, I had a really bad high school. Like my high school was just it's called Senator O'Connor on Victoria Park in Ellesmere here in Scarborough. A lot of fights, people selling drugs all the time. And I got caught in some of that sometimes. And then not in I don't sell drugs, but I had friends that connected, and one friend basically ended up making a deal and ran with the drugs, and then they want to find me to find him. So, anyways, it was a messy childhood. People were getting pregnant at my high school, asking me for abortion money. People would bring weapons to school, and so I think I really hated that environment. I hated being in this area, and then eventually, of course, somehow I managed to get to university. Somehow I got into university. I guess I just studied really hard, and I just knew how to avoid certain crowds. So I think a lot of my street smarts, some of that at least, came from being growing up in that kind of neighborhood where, if I'm taking the bus home, avoid the back of the school bus. If this bus looks like there's a bunch of bad people, I wait for the next school bus. Walking home sometimes if I was late, if I saw this group of, Hispanics, and, they look kind of gangster looking like, I just kind of walk on the side of the street. So I did a lot of kind of stuff. So yeah, so I hated it. Eventually I got into university and that was a big change for me, going, so I got to the University of Toronto and I studied in computer science, software engineering. And that was a big change, going from a high school like that, where most of the people did not get into university. um, I can remember counting the number of people with my hands that got into university. Yeah, and it's funny, I had to work throughout university to pay for my education. Um, Also, I was kind of silly for because in my high school, I had no relationships, right? I liked a few girls, but I never ended up dating at all. So my first girlfriend was actually in my first year of university, I think. And of course, um, being your first relationship, and you're new to it, So of course I got a job to make sure I could, take my girlfriend out for some meals, and and go to a few parties, whatever it is, So I felt like my life kind of started at like first year university, started partying, started eating out a lot. But of course I was taking I couldn't buy a car. So every day I took at least an hour transit to get to school. I had to take one bus, one subway, and one streetcar to get to my university. And I'm telling you that because meanwhile, I'm seeing like a lot of my friends who parents, just are better well off, they're driving to school, they're taking about maybe 20, 30 minutes to get to school. And it's just so convenient, right? And so then I'd see some people with beautiful BMWs or Mercedes, right? And I'm like, geez, like, I make 12 bucks an hour back then, and I can't even imagine how they can afford a car, right? And so, of course, later on, I found out that the parents bought it for them. And I started thinking, well, why didn't my parents have enough money to get me a car? You know, and sometimes, I had to pack my own lunches. So, eventually, my parents, of course, like, hey, you're old enough, pack your own lunch, deal with it yourself. And I remember sometimes like I'd go and have barely enough money to buy food for lunch, and or I had to pack lunch. Actually, those coffee powders, those 3-in-1 coffee powders. So my parents would buy it sometimes, and I would bring that with an empty mug to school. And I would actually like just get the free hot water from the schools to make my own coffee. I was just trying to save money, right? Um, and so, anyways, I just always remember seeing people eating at the better restaurants, and having chicken and ribs at a restaurant. And I'm just trying to get by. So I'm telling you all of this only because I think it's important to see what my mindset was like coming out of university. So eventually, of course, I graduated. I struggled a lot. Again, I think a lot of my struggles was because I had to work a part-time job, 15, 20 hours in order to be able to actually, pay for my school. In my third year, I got a placement for about almost 2 years at IBM, 18 months. And so I worked there. And I saved enough money so my last year I wouldn't have to work too much. So, anyways, I eventually graduated and, started working basically. Now, one thing about me and my dad was that in the last few years in university is when I was introduced into network marketing, into MLM. Um, and my dad, it's funny, he really wanted me to get into university, and he promised me, when you get into university, I'm gonna buy you your first car. That was my own like motivation, right? Then of course he changed it to, okay, well, when you get into your program for computer science, the first year everyone does the same courses, and you have to get into the program starting on year two. That's how comp sci works. And he goes, if you get into comp sci, then I'll buy you your car. I'm like, okay, then okay, fine, right? I was like, fine, let's go and do that. Then, of course, that changed. So he broke his promise twice. Then it changed to, when if you graduate from university, then I'm going to buy you your car. And of course, that never happened. So again, I think all these things kept building up. And I'll add one more thing. Um, I found out that my mom, that her dad in Cambodia, was one of the richest people in Cambodia. One of the richest people. In fact, they own this. I think my mom showed me this photo of my grandfather and their house that they lived in. This beautiful white mansion. There was like 20 bedrooms in there. But of course, when the revolution came, and the Khmer Rouge started to attack Cambodia and killing everybody, they lost everything. And of course, I was young. I was like, Mom, can't you go and find the deed somehow and claim it's still yours? But of course, when a country switches governments, right, whatever was yours is not yours anymore, right? There's no history record of that, right? The government's completely changed. So that kind of drove me nuts. I was like, wow, I mean, we could have been rich, but we're not. And then on my dad's side, I remember my dad has 13 siblings, 13. Well, a family of 13 siblings. So he has 12 siblings. And I remember going back to Malaysia one year because my dad's father had passed away, and we went back for the funeral. And I remember meeting my uncle Winston. And most of my family in Malaysia are actually pretty wealthy. You know, they all have their own businesses. Like not even one of them have a job. And that's when the whole thing about business really started piling into my mind. Like, you know, it's I'm doing the math here. You got to have a business to have wealth. If you have a job, you just over broke. You're just going to get by, right? As we always say, and I know that it's one of Maria Baptista's favorite sayings. If you work hard, you know, in your job, you'll make a living. If you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune. And so what ended up happening then was I saw my uncle's home. It was like a mansion, and I was getting into cars back then, right? So I loved my BMWs. I loved my dream car was this Lexus SC430. You might know what like the car is. If you know the car is, you're probably around my age or something. But anyways, he had that car in his driveway, along with the BMW, along with the Mercedes. There was about at least 10 cars parked in his driveway. And and I was just there actually last year. And I took a video. It's on my Facebook, by the way. It's a video of me being at that mansion again. Because over the years, what he did was he bought the mansion beside his, tore down like the fencing between it, and merged the two buildings together. And I was there, and it was just so surreal when I was literally at my uncle's house again. It's like the whole rich dad poor dad, right? The rich dad poor dad, where the real dad was, you know, the employee 9 to 5, and then the rich dad was the uncle, you know, and that whole story. So yeah, so again, I think all these things in my past, I'm really trying to take time to talk about it because I think it really set my mind and that desire and that drive. And I think in this business, if your drive and desire is, it has to be that strong to create the discipline that you must have to succeed in business. And if there's one thing that's probably common about every wealthy business owner or every successful business owner, if there's one common element, it's got to be how hard they work. How hard they work. You don't have to be smart. You know, I thought when I was younger that the world's wealthiest people were the smartest people. And I remember I went onto my computer one night at my parents' house and I actually Googled, I said, you know, are the world's wealthiest people the smartest people? And I was shocked. It said that like like over 90% of the world's wealthiest people have average IQs. I was like, wow, that's crazy, right? It was just insane to me. And I also thought that the world's wealthiest people inherited the money from their parents. And I looked that up. And then it said, in fact, 90% of the world's wealthiest people are self-made. I was like, huh? So where was I? Yes, okay, back to the house. So that yeah, the hardware. By the way, even this morning, I saw an amazing video. And I forgot who's saying it, but on the video, because I watch daily inspirational, motivational stuff. The video said there's a huge myth that you're not being told. That if you know, personal development, if you go to all these trainings, you take all these seminars, you attend all these powerful, you know, Eric Worre, or you know, you go through like, you know, the Rich Dad Poor Dad, you go through the, you know, Napoleon Hill, Get Rich, you know, you go through all those personal development, mindset, business training, you go through all these seminars, you have all these books on your shelves, and you're gonna make it. And the speaker was saying that's the biggest myth because he goes, all these books, all these seminars, all these audio training, all these things that you listen and you read, he says, without hard work, it means nothing. You must apply hard work. And that's really, I think, what drove me to work so hard. So eventually I started working. So I graduated. And I was working for TELUS then at the point in time. And 5 years in, I literally hated my job. I finally got a chance to buy my own car, but I would drive to work. And I was still cheap. I didn't want to pay for parking. They charge you parking to park at TELUS. And so I parked. So TELUS is about like a 10-minute walk from the mall. So I parked at the mall at Scarborough Town Center and would walk, through this under this bridge, through that road, to work. And it sucked during winter time, by the way. But what sucked even more was when I parked at the mall, they always have these mall cops or these mall security people. They're actually cops because if they see you park there before the mall opens, which is like around, for me, it's around before 9 a.m., and you walk away, they're going to go and give you a ticket. And so sometimes I would drive in. I knew there's only one entrance open. I drive around the mall, and they actually start to like board off certain roads, and I had to park. And sometimes I saw the mall guard. I would pretend to walk into the mall because they had a Tim Hortons, and pretend like I'm buying food, and then kind of sneak out, put on a hat on, and like run to work. So I was just trying to save money basically. And but so I hated doing that. In my job, I wanted to do design work for architecture and IT. They wanted me to do more basic stuff. Eventually, I kind of kept fighting my way to get to where I wanted to be, but I just hated going to work. I get to work, I sit down, just program, deal with all this nonsense politics with people. I was doing people's work for them. And then I remember the biggest thing that killed me was my goal was to become a senior architecture, like a solution architect. So you tell me a problem, I design the whole thing, right? And I sourced the programmers, the testers, the whole thing. Long story short, I did the work for one project, the whole essay work, right? The whole systems analyst work for that. And and so the thing is, they assigned an essay on the team, but that guy was clueless, and I was doing his work for him. And I even told my boss that. But when they gave a promotion for something, somehow that guy got the promotion, and I got so pissed off. And so and that's when I was introduced into MLM. Uh, for the not the first time, but that's when I came across my second MLM. My first MLM was introduced by my sister. Okay, back in university, here's a story. My sister's boyfriend, sister. So my sister's boyfriend, now husband, but the boyfriend's sister was on a bus in Etobicoke, and her neighbor on the bus approached her for USANA and said, "Hey, I have an opportunity for you." That led to uh, the sister on the bus joining with the mom. That led to my sister's boyfriend, now husband Jamie, looking at it. That got my sister to look at it. That got me to look at it. So we all joined because we're like, wow, residual income. I can build a team. If they just buy products, I get residual income. Like for me, if I could make $300 a month of residual income, I'm like, that's amazing. Like, because back then we were looking at real estate, and to get even $300 a month in net income, residual income in real estate, you had to buy a freaking home first. Like you had to afford to buy a property, then you rent it out, right? And I didn't have that money. So to me, that was amazing. To get that kind of money from the banks, you got to invest so much money. I didn't have that. So I was looking for ways to build up residual income. My goal, after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, all I wanted to make was residual income, residual income, residual income. But of course, it's my first MLM. I was still in school, didn't take it seriously. So what happened was when we graduated, um, in my early years of working at TELUS, we decided, Monica went to a convention, the USANA convention. Similar to, we have a conference coming up here in October, the Freedom Conference, the same kind of thing, right? All I can remember was like my sister. I known her for my whole life. I know how she's like, right? There wasn't much motivation. She wanted to do good at her job, but never think about her business, right? When she came back from that that USANA convention, I could not even recognize her. Like she had so much energy, so much like fire and inspiration. Um, and it was contagious. And that's what they say, right? Light yourself up on fire, so people can see you burning from miles away, right? Because that it's contagious, and it rubbed off on me. I was like, okay, you see something, I don't even recognize you at all. Let's go and do this, right? I mean, she's like such a shy person, you know, never had a serious drive like that to do anything for herself. She had a bit of a drive for her job, maybe. But anyways, so we decided to give because she heard this training, right? Like, are you really working hard? And so she actually got me to attend every training every Sunday morning at like 9 a.m. We would drive from here, drive 40 minutes to Woodbridge to the USADA head office to attend training every Sunday morning, every Sunday morning. And and it was annoying actually. Like I'd party till like 2, 3 in the morning, and Monica would be calling me like 8 in the morning, Rene, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, right? But I thank her for that. I thank her for making me get up and though I was tired, every time I went there, I got some kind of inspiration, a little bit, a little bit. And I think that's another keynote is that you got to show up for your meetings. If you have meetings or we have online Zoom meetings, you got to show up, right? And so we ended up taking it so seriously. And however, we didn't really understand, like we could tell that some of the trainers there didn't really understand the competition plan because we studied computer science, right? We actually did calculations and we did breakdowns and we figured out how to maximize the comp plan, right? And we figured out that the way that they were doing it was kind of weird. So we actually designed a whole new training system. I ended up taking it really seriously and bringing in like 30 new partners in the very first few months, which is really exciting. But for me in USANA, after about a year and a bit, what happened was all the people that I brought in, majority of them had stopped. And and a lot of these people, weren't perhaps really into the business, but they wanted to buy the products. So a bunch of them, so that to me really sucked. Like to have that many people get on a product and then stop. And back then, like we were competing against like Market America and New Skin and Amway. I just didn't see how it could happen. But I believed in MLM. And I knew it worked because I saw other people making a fortune. Somehow I wasn't able to do it. And the sad thing was we actually had asked because we want to get proper coaching because we knew that our sponsor, like none of them had any idea what they were doing. But they're driven, but they were not always there either. So we ended up actually contacting USANA's head office in the States and asking them, can you assign like, who above us can coach us? And they found some guy. I should have wrote this stuff down, but they found some guy somewhere in our upline. I don't recall if it was in Canada or the States. And he actually reached out to us. We're so excited at first. And what he said was, hi, Rene, hi, Monica, hi, Jamie, because the three of us were doing together, right? He says, you know what? He says that, great job, you guys, for trying to find someone to coach you. I looked at where you guys were in my organization. And unfortunately, because you're in one of my legs where that business center is already capped. So in USANA, every center can only make you $1,000 per week. Us, you can make up to $20,000 per week. So once you build that and you maximize that business center, you have to go and build other centers to keep making more money. It's like you're just never ending trying to build new legs, right? In USANA, it's binary. You're nonstop trying to build new legs. He goes, so unfortunately, we can't actually help you in your business. And we're like, huh? Like, what the heck? Like, what kind of a system does that where you're like probably the biggest spark they have recently in their team And the response is, we can't help you because you're on a leg that I've maximized that center and I can't afford to put time into you. So of course, again, I'm telling you this because sometimes people don't realize what kind of stuff happens out there in the industry. So we decided to do it ourselves. And again, still, that's when I realized that retention was really important. Retention. And no one taught us how to create retention with products or create retention with training systems in your team, all of which is really important. And so then one day, if you all know Sherry and Tammy, they're also in the business, right? So Sherry and Tammy, we met them by attending. So they ran a Rich Dad Poor Dad. You know that the cash flow board game. It's a board game that teaches you cash flow. Well, they ran that as a game every single month, and we would attend every single month. And so we actually went because we met a lot of good prospects, not just for USANA, but also for we're on the side. We're trying to build our own real estate investment company. And that's where we would have other investors invest their money. I think we bought about 30 properties together, some units in a condo, but that's a whole other story. But that's what we met Tammy and Sherry. The reason why I'm mentioning it is because one day, Sherry and Tammy keep calling Jamie, want to show him this travel business. And so it's funny, Sherry, Tammy, they just got started. They couldn't really explain it. And they went to my sister's condo and were trying to explain to Jamie about the travel business. And Jamie was trying to, he's like figuring out the presentation and explaining it back to Sherry and Tammy. It was so funny. But of course, then they got excited about the travel business and they showed me about it. And I got excited. I was like, wow, there's actually like a travel company in MLM. It sounds nice, right? You get to travel and you can book travel and sell travel. And then you realize, like, they show you all these amazing travel deals, right? Of course, you sign up, then you get access to the search engine. Then you search other deals. Like initially we tested a few deals, looked good. Then you start searching other travel deals and you realize no, vacations are not cheaper. There's all these other fees you gotta pay. And flights aren't cheaper, hotels are not cheaper. And so the only good thing though was because they booked big group events, it was cheap to go to their group training events. So the travel business, what I learned back then was the matrix. It was a matrix system. And that's where it pays down to about 10 levels. If you want to get paid to infinity, you have to become this super crazy high rank. And even if you filled the matrix properly, anyways, like it just after so much researching and digging and studying about the comp plan, we realized that what they promised you on paper of what you can make per month in residuals, like $12,000 per month, was a lot to me back then. In reality, because the matrix doesn't fill out every single row, every single spot, it's like probably like a tenth of that you'll ever get. There's no compression. But we enjoyed the travel, and it was still better, I guess, than USANA because we made more in bonuses from signups. But that's the story where Tammy and Sherry introduced us, right? What happened was we grew so quickly that we ended up advancing rank. So before, what they would do is that every single time that you launch like 20 people in a month, then someone gets $1,000 bonus. And back then, Sherry and Tammy kept getting this bonus, right? Because we weren't at that rank. But once we got to the same rank as Sherry and Tammy, guess who got the bonuses, right? So their income that they're making, it just dropped. And we started getting the bonuses, right? Then I think we eventually surpassed their rank and then they stopped doing the business. I was like, Sherry, Tag, why would you guys stop the business? And the response was, well, Rene, you're going so fast. With this plan, we can't even catch up to you. And that's when, like, all these things that we're going through, we just accepted it as the way of the business. We never thought there's another company out there like Opulence Global that doesn't have these issues. that doesn't have these weird things where your upline doesn't want to help you, or where your income is capped to $1,000 per week, or where if you surpass someone in rank, you screw them over. Like we didn't know that there exists a company like Opulence. Um, and so yeah, yeah. Also, I see a question here. I'm just gonna answer another way here. Yeah, so basically you get to $10,000 per week. But again, once you cap that, right, for 8 weeks in a row, you start to build your second and third business centers. And then, of course, at a higher level, you can make $20,000 per week. Now, of course, whenever we make a change, the existing people are grandfathered, right? But anyways, yes. So we do have a cap of $10,000 per week. But again, you have to cap it for 8 weeks in a row. Then you can build your second business center. And really, you're building this one more leg. But again, so yeah. So anyways, back then it was 20 grand per week. But now it's $10,000 per week. For 8 weeks in a row, you can build your second one, you can build your third one, and that's going to be like the 30K a week. And then once you get to the higher ranks, you get to 20K per week, right? But eventually, in the end, you get 20K per week per business center. But hey, even $10,000 per week, that's over $500,000 a year just in residuals. That's $520,000 per year in residuals, not including all the other bonuses, which for most people I think is good money, right? um, so, anyways, we and that's when we met other people again at their big events that inspired us. Like we at this one event, I see these leaders go onto stage, and these are people who are making like 20, 30 grand per month. There's one lady named Corazon, this short Filipino lady, could not even speak English properly. And she was making $20,000, $30,000 per month. On one of the company trips, we met her. And all I remember that whole entire cruise ship, seeing her on the cruise ship, was every single time I saw her, she was prospecting somebody. Like the waiter, the staff, the helpers, the employees on the boat. I went to the poker room, like the games room to play cards. She was doing a presentation in the card game room for someone else. She was prospecting other people on the boat. And I'm telling you this because I was like, wow, here's a top leader in the company. I'm trying to have fun on this boat, and yet she's working hard. She's not even done yet. She's and she's like, when I talk to her, she says, Rene, I'm just getting started. I'm just getting started. Well, okay, so that's probably the wrong accent. It's like a Filipino voice, right? I don't know. So maybe someone can come on here and do the do the Filipino accent, right? But she's like, no, I just get started, and that's more like Vietnamese. I don't know. Anyways, but the whole point was, I was like, wow, that's what it takes. That's what it takes. And so, anyways, so seeing people like that and seeing their stories, it inspired me to want to become more and do more. But I still, so back then I started doing some presentations sometimes, but mostly like between me and Mark and Jamie, I would bring the people and then Jamie did the presentation. That was like our whole gig. Like I brought the people, I'm chilling in the audience and you do the presentation, right? And I try to close at the end. But eventually, that travel business, again, we weren't making what we wanted to make. It was really tough, you know. And what happened was we got to a rank, but then some people in our teams lost their rank. When they lost their rank, people between us lost their rank, and we also lost our rank. Another issue with when you lose your ranks in a company as well too, right? And so, anyhow, that's what happened was that people kept deranking, and that eventually made us derank. Again, it doesn't happen in Opulence Global. So then one day, um, Jamie's friend, basically his wife, saw GWT at a jewelry trade show, and and this lady wanted to do the jewelry because she had a handbag business. She wanted to sell jewelry. Her husband, the accountant, said, "No way, don't do it." And the husband called Jamie to go in and inspect this jewelry company called GWT, which is formerly Opulence Global. And it's a name change, right? Same company. That's why we have the jewelry and fashion today. But then Jamie's like, well, it's jewelry. I don't want to go see this jewelry thing. Let me go ask Monica. So one day, I remember clearly, it's every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. We found this bubble tea place that had a small, like, private room that we could do presentations. And the deal was everyone had to go and buy a bubble tea or buy a meal. So we did our presentations that way. We found a place to do presentations every single week. And that day, Monica decided to go and attend this GWT presentation. So me and Jamie were dealing with the travel presentation. And so she went and she's supposed to come back by 2 p.m. That's when we finish to go and, go home together. She didn't get back to my parents' house. We were still living at my parents' house back then until like 6 p.m. or something, really late. And then she walked into my room with this briefcase, because back then we had this briefcase, old school days, right? And she sat on the corner of the bed and she was like, and I knew she signed up. And I was like, did you sign up? She's like, yes. I'm like, okay, but you're supposed to go to that meeting to tell the people why they should join our travel business. So the deal was to convince these people not to do this jewelry business and to do our travel business, right? But of course, I'm like, but you signed up. I'm like, wow. So then, anyways, she tries to sell me the idea, and and she wants to show me the presentation. I'm like, well, Mark, I'm not really interested in jewelry, but okay, but go ahead. She opens up the briefcase, and all the presentation slides they splatter on the floor. Now she's trying to like reorganize the presentation in the right sequence, right? And I just told Mark, I was like, you know what? Like, I was like, I don't even like jewelry. I don't like jewelry, so I can't sell it. But she goes, well, Rene, in business, it's not about what you like. It's what do the masses like. The majority of the people wear jewelry. About 80% of the world's population wear jewelry. The other 20, 30% buy jewelry for the other 70, 80%. So that makes sense to me. And so I said, okay, you know what? Fine. And then she tried to explain it to me. I didn't really get it. And so then a week went by, and she kept going to this presentation at the GWT office on Highway 7 and Leslie, the older office, East Pierce, no, East Wilmot. And one day she kept calling me, saying, Rene, can you do me a favor? This is what she asked me. Rene, can you do me a favor? Can you come to inspect and help me look at this company's compensation plan and try to help me find any loopholes because you're so smart. Now, mind you, she's smarter than me in study wise. She got a higher grade than me. Okay. She graduated with honors. I didn't. But here she is telling me that I'm smart and she wants my help. So, of course, she probably fluffed my ego a little bit. And I was like, okay, fine. Just to help you, I'll go and take a look. And that's when, but I told her, I said, Monica, on one condition. If I go to this presentation, I don't want to hear a product presentation. I've been to so many different presentations back then where the first hour or 2 hours is just about the product and how it can, do all this stuff. And I've heard it all by then, right? And nothing was new. It's always multivitamin, this multivitamin, multivitamin, multivitamin. There's nothing else back then, right? Mm-hmm. Excuse me. So, anyways, yeah. So yeah, amazing prospecting move from her. Thank you, Ronan. And so we go. And so she had already told the presenter back then, who was not even who was not so the presenter back then was currently our senior vice president and the wife of the CEO. She was my presenter, Miss Sanaz Human. She was she was a presenter back then. I think I got in just before she became before she was brought into the actual company. as the actual director, right? Because we had other VPs back then. But I got there, the usual 7 p.m. Walked into the office, small green walls, kind of dark. Up the stairs, walked in, and was greeted, of course, by the older VP. This guy just looked, again, because okay, mind you, I'm skeptical, right? So you understand my mindset in the story. I was skeptical as like no tomorrow, and I walk in and I basically get greeted by this VP. Nice guy. He just looked a little bit shady to me, but nice guy, right? Um, and so they had this when you walk in, they had a really small reception area, and they had this like jewelry showcase, and it's like wooden glasses, kind of like antique looking, and they had a few like tungsten timepieces. Again, I didn't even wear a watch. I didn't care about watches, so I was like, okay, nice, whatever. On the left side, there's an office room with a big window where they made that into another display because so they put a backdrop behind it and they put jewelry there. I was like, okay, and that's not too bad, whatever. And long story short, we walk inside and the VP goes to me, he goes, "Oh, Rene, can I make you a coffee?" I'm like, "Okay, well, yeah, thank you very much." And so we just kind of chit chatting, and then he gives me my coffee. I take a sip of this coffee, and I want to spit it out. Like, I thought the coffee went bad. I was like, these people make bad coffee. They have like, yeah, because what happened was they Yulia knows the story. Instead of putting sugar into my coffee, I drank I drank like double back then, right? He put two heaps of like salt into my coffee, right? I was like, what the heck is this, right? And I spat the coffee out, and he goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I think I must have put salt into your coffee, right?" And so again, it just made me really negative, all this stuff here, and seeing such a small office, right? And then of course, eventually we get ourselves into the boardroom. Sanaz walks in. And no, I'm always polite, right? Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Rene. Yeah, and being polite. And basically, Sanat says, well, would you like to go to and learn a bit more about our jewelry? I said, actually, I asked Monica for today if I could just focus on the comp plan. And she goes, understood, no problem, right? Again, very respectful. Sanat, she knew what I was coming in there for. And so then, yeah, they did the comp plan breakdown. And I was sitting there and I was like, what the pay to infinity? No flushing, no weekly cap of $1,000 per week, no rank issues of losing your rank or your team getting screwed up. You pay on both legs, you're one third, two third, and you have this sponsor bonus that I never had before, and you have this car bonus, and then all these things. But of course, I didn't want to join, right? And uh I didn't want to, I didn't want to look excited. I wanted to look like I was not impressed. But in my mind, it's like, oh, what's going on? This is so good. This is so good. But I didn't want them to see that in case I caught something and that's my way out the door, right? So presentation was done, and then we asked so many questions, and then we asked if the presenters could leave the room and give the room for me, Monica, and Jamie. I swear, like they must have heard us giggling inside that room because we got so excited in that room, right? But we made more questions. They come in again. We ask a barrage of more questions, and it's confirming everything. And then, of course, um, they told us it's an opportunity to become a shareholder of the company to buy shares, which is that's done a long time ago, by the way, right? I'm like, no way. So then we get a chance to meet the one, the only, our CEO. So Remy walking through the door, um, wow. We asked him a barrage more full of questions. and just like the talks that we had about the issues in MLM. And a lot, this is the stuff, guys, that you got to get yourself to the Freedom Conference, because to get that kind of time to hear from him, I know we hear his training for the networker, but there's so much more stuff in his mind that you got to hear from, right? Anyways, we asked a bunch of questions. He answered all of our questions. He talks about like the issues in the industry, and about becoming shareholders. I guess he liked who we were. Um, and what happened was we got hungry. So around 1:30 in the morning, they ordered pizza for us. I'm like, wow, that's so nice of you. Really appreciate that. And so, but then, so around 2:30 in the morning, yeah. So 7, we got there about 2:30 in the morning. We got so excited, so many questions that we had. We wanted to make sure we knew the importance of timing. We knew, okay, joining now is very important than joining tomorrow. Like we just knew that about a binary system, right? That pays to infinity now. And so, but then suddenly, all the lights shut off. Like no more power. Everything's off. It's pitch dark. 2:30 in the morning. And my mind was thinking, see, the company is broke. They didn't pay their bills. like, like again, it's still a little bit negative, right? I kept thinking I knew it. I knew it. This company didn't pay their bills. This is my key to leave, right? But what I did was I sneakily walked to the curtain and just to open it to see if the neighboring apartments were had power or not. But the whole block was out. So I knew, okay, it's not just the company's broke, it's that the whole power went out for the whole entire block, right? And yes, thank you, Emergit. It was 3,599 US dollars to join back then. And to be honest with you, I didn't even have the cash. I had to dip into my retirement savings funds. It's called the RRSP here in Canada. I had to go and withdraw that money out to pay for the membership. But I still remember to this day, the way that we signed up was they had these forms, right? It was all forms back then. There's no like sign up online, and we're using our cell phone lights, the light from our cell phones, and our laptop light to make it bright enough to see the forms to sign up. And we also decided to become shareholders that night, right? So I had to go and get more money from my savings to pay for the shares. And that would be, however, it's weird. I still, in my mind, because I put so much time and effort into the travel business, part of my mind and my heart was still there. You know what I mean? Like, so I signed up, but just to hold a position, really, and to get the shares, thinking I might get rich one day on the shares, but still focus back on the travel business. And I remember, somehow that first week was like a blur, right? I was trying to do the travel business, but the more I learned about GWT, which is now Opulence, my excitement kept switching over. My heart started to come over more and more. Then Monica told me, okay, you know what? She brought in one person, and that one person brought in a few other people. Then I said, you know what? Let me contact Sherry and Tammy, and who are our uplines in the travel business, right? Because they were pretty good networkers too. And I remember I called Sherry. So I started to bring in other people, like my other. Okay, here's my challenge. I wanted to bring in my previous people in travel business into this new business because I knew that the money plan, the opportunity was way better. It was not even comparable, right? My challenge was I didn't want to be seen as the guy who's dragging my teams around places. Because one thing that really pissed me off that I saw in other companies was some of the leaders in the travel business kept jumping to different companies and would do calls to try to bring people with them. And I was on one of those calls where they're trying to offer us money to join this other company. But that turned me off. I felt like you just had no credibility. You're just trying to go and grab people and bring people with you, right? So I didn't want to be like that kind of person. But here's the thing, right? Ramin asked me a question. He goes, well, Rene, He says, these people that you brought into the travel business, they trusted you, they believe in you, right? And you're why they're there. I said, yes. I said, so Rene, he goes to me, if you found another opportunity that you genuinely felt was better and you generally felt was and you had the reasons for it, wouldn't your friends want to know now? Because if you wait another 6 months till you make money and then you contact these people from before, wouldn't they be even more pissed off that you didn't tell them sooner? I was like, you're right. So, but my approach was, hey guys, I love this travel business, but here's the thing, right? I came across another opportunity that I spent days and days inspecting, hours researching. I've asked all my questions. Everything about this to me is 100,000% better. But I'm not here to try to ask you to pay to join again. I just felt like it's my responsibility, since I brought you into the travel business, to at least tell you that I'm doing this. And it's up to you if you want to come and see it and decide for yourself if it's for you or for not. If you don't want to see it, no problem. But I want to do the right thing. So every single one of the people that I brought into the travel business, pretty much every single one of them came over because they saw the same thing that I saw. Yes, it was long meetings too, a lot of questions, but they saw it, you know. Um, and that's where, like, we started making a lot of money right away because I was on fire. And then I remember sharing Tammy. I guess we're running out of time, but I guess, yeah, I could leave you off with this one last story here. I remember calling them for 7 days in a row. I said, Sherry, Tammy, you gotta come and see GWT. You gotta come see it. You're going to fall in love with it. Trust me. No, Renee, it's okay. I see so many companies now, and it's not for me. I kept pushing. No, Sherry, Tammy, please, just seventh day, I said, Sherry, I will even buy you dinner and bubble tea. Just come and please watch this presentation. She's like, okay, fine. She didn't know that bubble tea dinner combo was like $5. I got it from my the same bubble tea place that we had the presentations. That's how I knew it was so cheap there, right? It was $5. But she came, and then when she launched, and we me, her, Tammy, Chris, my sister, we all just ran together. Made 5,000 our first month, 6 month 10,000, 10 month 20,000, um, and there's a lot more to my story, of course, too. I guess unfortunately, we're just out of time. But the main thing that I want to share today, of course, was really a lot about just the right kind of mindset I had coming into this actual business, right? To want to go and work so hard. Okay, I'm seeing some questions here, right? Yeah. Okay, yeah. So how is what I did different than cross recruiting? So cross recruiting to me, again, this is about how I call back the people in my last company, right? So here's the thing. I only called back the people that I personally brought into the travel business. They were my friends, my people, right? Now, for a lot of companies, that would be called cross recruiting still. As long as you're showing this people in this company another product, another opportunity, and you want them to join over there, that's still considered cross recruiting, right? But for me, the way that I personally see it, is that the people that I brought in, like your company wouldn't have had them if I didn't bring them in, right? And they are my friends and my family. So if I did find something better, it's in my right. I should take care of the people to at least let them know that I found something else. And you can look at it if you want to, right? I would never go and approach, let's say I had John and Alfred in that company, and John and Alfred brought 10 people. I wouldn't call them. I say, John, Alfred, those are your people. I wouldn't have known them if not through you. That's your response. That's up to you, right? So that's where I stopped. I made sure that it's only who I brought in that I'm going to let them know I found a better opportunity. I don't go and raid a whole downline. And that's what other people do. Other people will join one company, get to know all the organizations, right? And then get all their phone numbers somehow and try to show them different opportunity. Like they're just that ruins lives. And that part is where that to me is called cross recruiting, right? Yeah, so it's happened to me before too, because in my travel business, when the leader left, he had a call and even invited some of our people to the call, and some of them want to join with him, right? So that's where I experienced that for myself. So yeah, so that was the beginning of GWT Opulence. And I mean, again, I have 17 years of being here now, but I definitely today my main focus was to share with all of you what really started everything, where I came from, because I know oftentimes I don't get a chance to share a lot about myself and my history, and what drives me, and my childhood upbringings and what motivates me. And I encourage all of you to really ask yourself, to think highly. What is your why? Like, why are you here? The one thing about me is I knew I didn't want to work 50, 60 hours a week, like as a programmer for the next 60, 70 years, and not be able to afford the big houses, the nice cars, or travel with my family, or buy what I want to buy. I wanted to own my life. And, I think if you have children, it's a really easy why to choose that will drive you, because we all want to give better lives to our children, right? And so find what you have to find that's going to drive you, that will allow you to work as hard as you possibly can, and take it seriously over the next 2 to 5 years. One last story, I guess, was that when I was younger, I remember I had to go karaoke too much. Like I'm not a good singer, but like I just like to go there, drink and sing. And every Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday, sometimes Tuesday, Thursdays, we kept going out to drink, right? And I remember one night in the same karaoke, in the same private room, in the same seat, you know, um, where everyone was the usual drinking games, singing karaoke. But of course, they all had parents that had money, right? Not me. I was paying my own stuff. Suddenly, because I wasn't happy, but I think I went to karaoke and drinking because it made me happy. Does that make sense? Like I wasn't happy where I was. It was my way of avoiding reality sometimes. But doing that too much, what happened was eventually one day I remember sitting there, and it's almost like an outer body experience. Like I kind of like, yeah, that's probably from the drinking, this outer body experience, right? I kind of zoomed out for myself, and I was looking at myself in that room. And then I asked myself a question. I was like, hmm, if all this money and time that I spent doing this karaoke 3, 4 times a week, or going to do beach volleyball, trying to date, trying to do going to the gym, playing badminton, trying to do dragon boning, uh as I said, aside from my work, I asked myself, if all the other time I spent aside from work, I spent that time into doing a business, any kind of a business, I said, would I be somewhere better off in the next 5 years? And it's like a big giant like hammer just like smacked me across the head. And somehow that night I remember like things didn't change like instantly, but it started to roll really quickly, like day after day, it kept changing really fast. And my mind went into, okay, no, let's do me, let's do PD, personal development, let's do motivational, right? But also find something to go and do, right? So suddenly, um, so I hope that helps you, that we all have time that we spent on things that don't make us get anywhere further in life. You know, Netflix, Amazon Prime, I don't know, like all your streaming shows, all your social events, right? Make use of those times. You can do social events, but have a business and do business while you're socializing, right? So everything I did, I said, you know what? If I wanted to do these things like the volleyball, the badminton, the dragon boating, I might as well as bring a business into it and do it at the same time. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it because I had to focus, right? I said, stop going to karaoke. Let's go to some networking events, meet some more people, prospect some more people, right? And so some of us spend too much time on chit chatting, drama, gossiping. And I'm going to say it, sometimes families can be very, very distractive, right? And and so whatever it is, you got to figure out for yourself, who you need to see less, who you need to see more, who you need to be around less, who you need to be around more, and start doing these things. Conference is something you should be at because it's the people that are sharing the same goals and they want to help you get to your goals. Every single one of your uplines above you want you to succeed because the more that you can succeed, the more that they can succeed. And so you got maybe to change some friends, right? Some people will be toxic in your life, and you don't need these people in your lives. They're not going to raise you up. They're going to pull you down. They're going to drown you. They will drown you. And I had people like that. So guess what? I literally, some friends, I just cut it off. I just completely cut off some friends out of my life. I say, no, like I said, I just stopped going to these parties. I might go every now and then, but I probably stopped about 90% of it, I'd say. So anyhow, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me this beautiful Sunday morning. I think my wife is calling me for my breakfast now. I actually made breakfast and I kind of left it there for them to go eat. But anyhow, I hope you feel inspired and different after this call. If you have not bought your September conference tickets, please, please, please buy it now. We still have a few early bird tickets left. Please contact myself, okay, or anyone else. Please let us know. And of course, I will try to get this. I think that the recordings do get put onto the Opulence Global YouTube channel, so join that channel as well too on YouTube. Oh, and Ifra has her hands raised. Yeah, we'd love to have. Yes, Ifra, how are you? Are you still in Minnesota? Our LD4 Ifra Hassan.
Good morning, Rene. Yes, I'm coming to you live from St. Cloud.
Woo! Well, again, if I'm so proud of you, again, you are someone, again, you shared your story on last month's call. Again, thank you for being here as well today. Thank you so much. Inspiring, your story.
You're most welcome, Rene. Thank you for sharing your story. I love how you started us off from, the bottom, I don't mean to sound like Drake here, but started from the bottom.
Now we're here.
Yeah,
Karaoke time.
exactly. And how you got here. I appreciate that. You mentioned one thing that I really, really, made me go, wow, is the fact that when we were in Atlanta, you shared with us so many incredible, incredible gems. And you kept on talking about how when your sister went to the first conference, she came back as a changed woman. So
Yes.
I cannot stress enough how important it is for all of us to show up at the September conference, because that is exactly what it's going to do. And to make it even more of a pressure for you, when we were in Atlanta, Rene did a strategy with myself and two of the sisters who came with me. And what he shared with us literally made me to become a brand new in the business again. Imagine, after 5 years in the business with all the success, I am more committed, more inspired today than I have ever been. Had I not went to Atlanta, that would never happen. So if you want to hear what rejuvenated me, definitely I want to see you at the conference in September. We will make sure you have that one-on-one or group session with Rene to get all those gems. And I promise you, it's gonna reignite you, it's gonna blow up your business, expand your business, and give you that, ammunition, they say, to really take this to the next level. So I just wanted to share that. Back to you again, Rene.
Okay, thank you, Ifra. Yes, actually, that was a great night. And that's what we're talking about, right? Is sometimes at these events, it's what happens after the meetings. And I recall that same night, I think it was a Saturday night. And after the boot camp, Ifra again, after the boot camp, she went to another meeting somewhere in Atlanta, and then we went to another meeting. We kind of split ways, and we actually met back at the hotel late that night, and they had a beautiful outdoor patio with fans to keep the mosquitoes away. And I think we spoke there for another almost 2 hours, right? Ifra, yeah, 2 hours there. And it was herself, myself, Fatun, and Ayan. Amazing time. And, because, there's so much, I guess, in every leader that we have that's going to be there that's in the Freedom Conference. Every leader has so much gems and so much golden nuggets in their mind that they can't get it all in 1 hour for you, right? And so these events, you start to collect all these golden nuggets that literally will change your business forever. Again, I'm really just again, if Dominica, I know how tired you were, and yet you stayed out there to the very end, and you were taking notes. And the one thing about Ifra was she's just so powerful. What she took notes that day, she actually ended up training that stuff in Minnesota as well. And apparently, they had a great time with the same kind of topics too. So yeah, we'll share that, of course, with you in our Freedom Conference. So until then, again, thank you for sharing. Thank you everyone for all your amazing comments. I appreciate you being here with me on Sunday morning. You could be somewhere else. And as always, we are one team, one dream, to the billion. Love you all. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful Sunday, okay, everyone? And we'll see you on tomorrow night's, of course, Product Crossfire. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Stay blessed, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. To the billion. Bye, everyone.